piece I'm doing tonight, Oceanos, is all underwater and recorded with hydrophones. And so I'm fascinated by that world and how it sounds. And so the reality is actually far stranger than sounds that you could create in the studio. So in that sense, I'm interested in getting closer, but sometimes it's a reality that we don't understand. The interesting things about field recording, location sounds, recording soundscapes, is that it's a very isolated, solo activity. When you put headphones on, when you're out there in the world, whether it's on the banks of the Seine or in the Arctic, only you can hear the world in that way. You can't share it with anybody when you're listening to that place. What I enjoy about doing live diffusions and performances is that you can then share those sounds as you heard them on location. And to me, that's the best way of working with those sounds. You know, recording them in isolation and diffusing them back into an environment and sharing them with an audience. Hydrophones are underwater microphones, and I use them a lot in my work. So for the piece tonight, I've used spatial arrays, so sometimes 4 hydrophones to record surround sound but underwater. And I mount them on floats and lower them 10, sometimes 20 meters down into the ocean, because the sound travels almost 5 times faster through water, seawater, than it does through air. It's the most sound-rich medium we have on the planet. And the oceans are full of sound. It's the most sound-rich medium. So I like to record wherever I go, and then sometimes weave them into pieces that I do. So the piece tonight starts in the Atlantic Ocean near the equator with the sounds of a coral reef, and ends in the high Arctic with the songs of bearded seals singing under Arctic sea ice. So I've recorded in sounds with hydrophones in all those locations. So the pieces, a lot of my pieces aren't abstract, it's a journey, it has a narrative, and it flows from one place to the other. So that's what we'll do this evening, hopefully take the audience on a journey through the oceans. It's really interesting because, I mean, I love coming here because there's nowhere else in the world that sounds like these speaker systems and diffusions. So I always enjoy coming here. So it's always a new experience for me, and it's a very steep learning curve. But I love the shape and sound of the auditorium, and I think it's perfect to imagine putting people on the floor of the ocean. So that's what I'm hoping to try and do. So my pieces, there's very few precise located sounds. It's more of a diffuse sound field that I'm hoping to create and use the height of the auditorium from top to bottom. And the speaker system can do that. We sometimes think that we live on planet Earth, and of course we don't. We live on planet Ocean. 70% of our world is occupied by the seas and the oceans. It's the most sound-rich place, so it's vitally important. However, we still know very little about it. We know more about the dark side of the moon than we do about the floor of the ocean. And it's vital to our survival and health and well-being, so it's important that we conserve these places. And I think bringing sounds to an audience, such as here tonight, will just hopefully make people think about how important these places are. Actually, there's a Frenchman that did a great disservice to the sounds of the ocean. Jacques Cousteau, the very famous scientist and inventor and marine biologist, famously wrote a book and made a film called The Silent World. And I read that and listened to it when I was a teenager and believed him. But then, of course, as soon as I put hydrophones in the ocean, I realised actually that was complete nonsense, because it's the most sound-rich habitat that we have. And I think when people start to listen to it, they can engage with it and realise that this is a place that's important to us all. It's a very hostile environment, one that's very difficult for us to survive in, but nevertheless it's vitally important to us all.